Hey, Kevin. Well, kind of fleshing this whole thing out first on paper and then putting it here on Illustrator quickly to just kind of go over things really helps me catch any inconsistencies. And already I've caught some, so it's really helpful to always kind of go through things methodically. And while this is probably the longer part of the process, it's definitely necessary. So this is the homepage per the design that's currently here. And there's a couple things to note here for latest news, for example. All these widgets will be editable and linkable to pages that then will be created later. So what I mean by that is basically you'll be able to update the header. Actually, the headers will probably stay the same because they're always the same. So it's the latest news on what though? So you would change that content and you would link it to the latest news of a specific page, for example. Local events, you would change the body content and link it to a specific local event. Lifestyle links, you would change the content and link it to a specific lifestyle link, and we'll get to that. Featured places here would just be images with links that would link to featured places that you would choose from the back end of the CMS. It's still too early to show any of that stuff, but I mean, this is important to go over now. So that's what you see here. Um, Also, just as a quick terms and conditions page, there would be the header 3 is a different class of header and just content, and you could stack this content based on your privacy policy and your terms and conditions. On the About Us page, there would be a contact, phone number, email, and I was thinking here it could plug in maybe just a Google map of your office. So let me know if that works. And then here would be this whole region would essentially just be editable in one area of the CMS. So you would add the image, put a text wrap, and I'll show you how to do all that stuff later. But that's all handled by the backend CMS. This is just a suggestive way to lay out the information. Here could be your name and a brief description and so forth, going down the list. Um, Now, from the home page, if you were to click on neighborhoods, it would take you to the neighborhood list page. Now, this page wasn't really conceived in any way in this mock-up. It would just, neighborhoods just went straight to what a neighborhood page would look like. But how would you get to the neighborhoods is the question. So there would naturally have to be a neighborhoods page that would be titled, self-titled basically, to stay in line with the theme. Or we could get rid of the self-title and just begin to have the list. Now the list would basically be a list that you could add and remove links from. I don't know how styled I would get at this point. Just having a list would allow people to quickly, and obviously it's alphabetically ordered. Um, this is just suggestive of it being a link hover, but they would basically choose any one of these neighborhoods and then be taken to a neighborhood page. And now that goes in line with, for example, here, DuPont, right? And it would have its own image and a different background color, and it would say the neighborhood, and the sub navigation would appear, and it would have its own latest news area, and its own latest local events, and its own lifestyle links that would lead to their respective areas. Events and news is not actually in the mock-ups yet, but um, here you start seeing that the expanded sub navigation, and this is important because this is how I've suggested it would go in order, and it could be changed, but just for the sake of getting it, right the first time, if you can let me know if this is the order you would want it in. This is just the order I assumed it would go in: places, gallery, points of interest, news and events, history and stats, lifestyle links, and facts. And I wasn't even certain if facts would still be included because I didn't know how similar that would be to history and stats. But anyways, I'll leave that up to you to decide. Just let me know what would kind of be the final navigation here and the order. And then this is the image that you saw in, obviously right here. And again, we have these three widgets that from this page, this would be a custom post type that could be created essentially as a template. You would be able to change the neighborhood name. You would be able to relink these pages to their respective versions of places and gallery, points of interest, news and events, history and stats, lifestyles, links, and facts. So these would each in their own right be their own template. So you could create one for every single neighborhood, and then you would link these from the main neighborhood template page to those respective pages. Within this template also would allow you to fill out these widgets and these images here that would then click to a particular listing or place within this neighborhood. So if you didn't have any, then you wouldn't put any. So it's just as simple as that. If you were to click on places now, it would take you to a places list page. This also didn't exist in the original design, where essentially it would still keep the neighborhood title here, in this case DuPont Circle, and it would show that places is now selected, and it would just show a list of places by name. Notice it still has the same sub-navigation of the neighborhood because you're still within the neighborhood section. So here you could obviously navigate to the other areas. And so once you click a place, it would take you to the place page, where here it would say Oxford House, for example, and then down here would be DuPont Circle. Now it's a smaller header, and then you'd have the smaller sub-navigation of places, listings, and gallery. Now places would take you back to the list of places of that particular neighborhood. Okay, and the listings, we'll go over that in a moment, would take you to those respective listings. But here on the place page, it would be like this Oxford House, where it has the name of the place here, and then the neighborhood, and then it has places, gallery. We decided to get rid of news and events and lifestyle and just go with places, listings, and gallery. And also, here it wouldn't really be necessary to put news and events because it doesn't apply to this area anymore. So just a simple header with a description would kind of give a summary to this place, and then of course has the listing information and the realtor information, and the image and all this content would be editable on all three of these areas, including the image here and including the name of the place, the name of the neighborhood, and where you could link these pages to. So keep in mind that these are basically templates, and with that in mind, you can change the main areas, and I'll document that later for you, probably in screencasts like I'm doing here, and break them down into small, quick minute screencasts that would target a specific how-to until it just becomes second nature to you. So, but yeah, let's assume that you're in the place. So you would go to the listings. If you were to click listings, and here this is something that still needs to be investigated, how this IDX MLS software works. I'm going to have Carolina try to get me some documentation on that so I could start going over it, because I still really haven't decided how that would integrate into this yet. But assuming it would just be an API plugin or an iframe, which means essentially you're embedding just like a window that's pulling information from their servers, but you can just display that map here, is yet to be seen, but supposedly, according to Carolina, that is something that can be accomplished with that software. And then here would be something that you self-list, because these are your listings within this place, right? So it could be one, it could be various, but here is essentially how they would stack. It would have an image, a name, and a description. Whether you would embed a link to an email or put a phone number is up to you, and that's just something that you would decide how to put it in the content and then dictate your own standards within this. This is just suggestive of how the information will be put. And when I get into the WordPress side of showing you how that works, you'll see that basically it's a big white area, and you can put an image, and then within that it gives you a little list of tools, and you can put a text wrap around an image so that the text wraps around the image, and you can put a header 3 and then paragraph text down here. So it's very simple to do once you get the hang of it. So that's essentially the listings within a place. And then we have a gallery within a place, And on the gallery page is a little different because um, if you wanted to go back to the place, the main place page, not the listing, but the place page in and of itself. Notice that this is the page that you came from the places list page, right? So you got to a neighborhood, from neighborhood you selected a neighborhood, you're at that neighborhood, now you click places to see the places in that neighborhood. And so it's implied that when you're actually at that place, you would click places to go back to the neighborhood list of places within that neighborhood. Um, and that's what this link would serve. But once you go to, um, once you came from that neighborhood page, how would you get back to the regular place page? For example, see here you're at listings or gallery. And on listings, I forgot to put the crumb trail, but the point being is that if you click places, it would just take you to all the places. But what if you just wanted to get back to the main place page? You would need a crumb trail, and that's what I actually added here in the gallery, but forgot to do it for the listing page, so that you can just go back to the place itself and not the main places of this particular neighborhood. Otherwise, you would just hit the back button. I understand, but this would just be a simple way to kind of toggle and get back to the page of that particular place. And this is just the gallery at the neighborhood level. So if you were to click neighborhood, you selected DuPont Circle. This would be DuPont Circle and the gallery of DuPont Circle. Neighborhood points of interest. The remainder of these pages are all going to be static content type pages. So how you lay them out is up to you, but you really, just for the sake of keeping things standard, you would have a header, an image, and a block of text, or an image, a header, and a block of text. Because you're touching on certain points here, and you're showing a little visual image. You could also just do a header and a block of text. It just really depends on if you have the additional asset to add to that point of interest. And they just basically stack one on top of another. The same is true of news and events. I even put a different one here to just show that whether you put a header and a block of text or a header and an image and a block of text is really up to you. And you can even put the image on the right side and have the text. So, it just really depends. But just for the sake of how we naturally read from top to bottom, left to right, this is a general standard that, would be a natural starting place. Going to history and stats, in my mind, it was like this year or something, a specific year in history, these things happened, and on this year, this happened. And so this is something really that would be dictated by the content. But this is just, again, a suggestive layout, and all this stuff is done. Imagine in all the last few pages I showed you, this whole kind of area of the body would change its content. And you could lay it out in various ways, like this, or like this. So think of it as just basically this container area of the body that you could alter the content. The same is true of lifestyle links. It would have a header to, I don't know, restaurants, bars and clubs, or whatever, and you would have different links that would link out to those respective pages. And finally, facts, again, is kind of, to me, list data. So it would have some kind of fact and, the supporting information of that fact. So, or it could just be blocks of text, paragraph text, with headers and subheaders that divide that content. And finally, the listings result page would be after you did a search here and you entered a couple queries, it would bring up information from the MLS third-party software. And however that works, I would have to get into kind of, the nuts and bolts of how that particular application will tie in. But again, these would be all listings in the DC area, not just the specific ones that you would be putting within your place page, right? So from my understanding is that the listings within the place pages would be your personal listings because you're trying to highlight those. And naturally, if someone were to, but at the same time, because you are a broker, you are allowing people to also search your MLS listings to find other places that perhaps are not within your personal listings. And that's what these search results would be generated. So as you can see, it's really they're grouped here. So the home, about us, the neighborhoods list page, the neighborhood page, a template page for privacy policy information, a places list page, a place listing page, gallery 1 for places, gallery 2 for neighborhoods, a neighborhood points of interest, neighborhood news and events, neighborhood history and stats, neighborhood lifestyle links, neighborhood facts, listing results page. So as you can see, all these pages would be created more or less. The home page wouldn't, the about us wouldn't, the neighborhoods list page wouldn't, but the rest of them would all have one version for every single neighborhood and every single place. So you can see how eventually it's going to be very important, and we'll go over this later, how to name your naming conventions for the pages. This will help you really obviously understand things, but we're going to do it at a very granular level and a very obvious hierarchy: neighborhood, place, and then the sub pages of that place or the sub pages of that neighborhood, and so forth. So it's going to become a lot easier to manage it when you actually see it on the back end. But you're going to have easily 100 pages, but know that these are the main templates that you're going to be using over and over and over again, and the flexibility within those templates to be able to adjust the contents to your need. So that in and of itself is its own work. So I will probably more than likely take, flesh out 1 or 2 entire neighborhood and place page structures, and then document those for you and your team to be able to fill in the rest of them. What was important, and this is going to be a little tricky here, because from the list that I received from Timothy for the actual neighborhoods, I'm gonna obviously look these up and do my research as to where they are for the homepage map. For right here. So I'm gonna have to kind of locate where all those are, and this list will serve that purpose for creating this menu. So that's going to be a one-timer pretty much. If in the future, for whatever reason, there's another neighborhood which I doubt, I think these are all the neighborhoods in DC, but if for whatever reason there's another one here that's not currently listed, we would explore going back to aggregate that later in another version or iteration. So hopefully that all makes sense. The plan is pretty clear. Just to go over quickly, the things that I would need from you at this point is to ensure that this list is in fact a final list, and if you like the order of that list. The rest I pretty much have under control, and if there's anything that I missed here, just let me know. One thing that I will say that I know I missed is a footer link for privacy policy and terms and conditions, which would be site-wide. And these little guys down here represent the icons for social networks if you were to activate them. So again, I didn't want to include something. They also had it here on the top and the bottom. I didn't find that very necessary. If you do want them at the top, let me know. If you only want them at the bottom, let me know. But this is something that in time I would assume you would roll out after you also have content management on the social network side, because it's pointless to be pointing to a social network unless someone's actually aggregating content. And from my assumption really is that this site will give you enough to really go off of for at least a few months in terms of adding that content, right? So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.